Top of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they say in Australia, isn't it? It's a mild summer Saturday's evening, which means a new League of Europe season is upon us, and it's a new game cycle as well. Our first race on F1 2023 and our first race of season 10 as well brings us down under to Albert Park, and it's a doubly new era for LOE D1 as well, because we've got no James Head on the mic this season, a man who's as synonymous with LOE D1 as shrimps are with barbecues and Black Widows are with Australian toilet seats. Instead, I am QVR Killer to take you through proceedings this evening, and making his long-awaited return to League of Europe is Billy the Tractor Fan himself. It's the long-time voice of D2. It's Mr. Daka. How are you, sir?
Bonjour, salut, what's good, my dudes? Welcome back to League of Europe, and yes, I had to do that. Yes, it is so great to be back in the commentary box. Probably will be a one-off, but nevertheless, we'll get things running tonight, nonetheless. So, what I want to say about this opening race, it's full of unknowns. I think that must be said. As you said, it's a new game cycle, everything almost reset, and as you mentioned just before we got live here, we have 3 D1 champions on the grid this season. 2 of them are in attendance tonight. But yeah, that's going to make things so intriguing. I think we could see one of the more competitive seasons we've ever had here in D1. I can't wait to get it underway.
Neither can I, and we've got a really competitive grid at the sharp end. We've got NSX Montana, NSX Connor, NSX Spine making his a long time return. I don't expect him to see the season to its conclusion, if I'm honest with you. NSX Cucumber, we've got Justas, who's one of those D1 champions along with Montana. We've got Campbell, who's not with us today. We've got a lot of drivers who, even people like Jewel Bream, Sweet Crown, who are consistently at the sharp end. It feels like we've got a good 7 or 8, or even maybe more than that. Half the grid could be D1 race winners this season, which is a rare thing in D1. We're used to just seeing one man run away with it, and then on the other seasons it's Campbell and somebody else, isn't it? It was Justas in season 7, Campbell and Selly and Cucumber in season 8. I'm intrigued to see what kind of run Cucumber can give Montana, because Cucumber joined us mid last season when Montana wasn't racing, and now they're going to be up against each other for a full season, same grid. I think that's going to be a very tasty battle. I think he's going to give him much more of a challenge than Connor ever did. Who's our first person out on track? It is an Aston Martin, and that must be Montana. How appropriate. Montana, as always, first out on track in qualifying.
He is indeed, and will likely get things kicked off. Interestingly, his good friend NSX Connor is immediately behind him. I think they will swap positions. On Cucumber, yes, it must be said that for the races he was here last season, he was by far the highest point scorer, I believe, and wasn't far away from winning the championship despite missing the opening third of the season, so he's certainly going to be a threat. Connor, as always, hugely aggressive on these outlaps, trying to get the tyres heated up, and he's going to, open things up for us then. The first competitive lap of LOE Season 10 over the line, NSX Connor, to kick off the first tour of Albert Park tonight. Heading in at T1 then, has to watch that curb over on the inside there.
Oh dear.
Massively
Connor.
Unsettled into the wall.
Prime
and the front
Connor.
wing comes off, and he's got a hugely aggressive driving style, and just completely lit up the rear. As I mentioned, you have to watch that curb on the inside. It can very easily unsettle the car, and one of the fastest drivers we've had really in the history of our league has been caught out very early. So N6 Montana, it seems, will take things up, heading through at the end of the first sector. 26.6 is very reasonable split time through the opening part of the lap, and you can see down this long drag up towards turn 9. He's got a lovely tow from his teammate Spain. That's going to carry him all the way up towards this super fast chicane. 8th gear on the approach, drops down to 6th, little bit wide of the apex, takes a lot of curb to the second part, but ultimately very seamless through at the exit. Now you're heading into this technical third section of the track, into T11 on the brakes, then try not to hit that red curve over on the inside. Use as much of the track on the exit as you can, then flick it in turn 12. Very aggressive, revving it out in 5th gear and onto the brakes yet again. 3rd gear then, trying to hold on to that traction, control the throttle on the entry here to the final corner, pin it on the exit, and Montana is going to be over on his way to the line, and he opens things up with a 1:16.5. We'll see how that time measures up to the other drivers heading down to the line now.
Really strong lap, but Nathan goes within half a second of him. Half a tenth, sorry. I think we'll be looking at pole around a 0.1, around a 0.2. There's plenty of time in that lap for Montana. We saw it at the last corner. Touch of understeer as well at Turn 9, you mentioned Verstappen goes P3, albeit 4/10 adrift of Nathan. Who else have we got on a lap? Justas goes P3. We've got ET8 Mohammed, formerly Ariel Slash. He goes slowest of our runners so far with a 17.4. Coming to the line is Ben Jess in the sister Ferrari. He's making his D1 debut. He's slowly dragged his way up the order. Only P9 for him, a 17.9. And now look at Spine getting a nice slipstream from Montana, returning favour. Both Swiss drivers, of course. And again, the Aston Martin, I wonder if that's deliberate, because far be it from me to criticise the driving of Montana or Spine, that they just stayed well away from the apex of turn 9 there. Or perhaps just arriving with that little extra speed from the slipstream. The car doesn't quite bite into the corner as much as it did. This looks nicer from Spine than it did for Montana. Turn 12, turn 13, such a tricky little section to hook up here. The car takes an age to turn and then an age to get on the throttle, or it feels like it. Anyway, it's going to be a nice lap from Spine, I think, but I don't think it's going to be the quickest. And it's a 16.6. We've got a nice little clustering there of our top 4 so far, and I think that may just be it for our first runs. The exception being Matt 240, who's a little bit out of sync. I think he's on an out lap.
His pace doesn't seem to be particularly electric, and I think he is actually I think he's on an in-lap, in fact. Maybe just messing up that first run, I'm not sure, but his pace isn't exactly fully competitive. So, yeah, we're kind of almost in a period of waiting, I think. Montana then opening up the first runs with a fairly decent lap, Nathan right behind him. So the gaps aren't too big right now, and as you mentioned, we do have that top 4, but there's no telling how things are going to shake up, because it can all change. Remember, especially first runs of the first race, it's always going to be a bit nervy opening up, so some of those drivers may have coped a bit better than others. So how this session will evolve, well, that's anybody's guess.
And speaking of nerviness, Sweet Crown has just gone invalid at the exit of turn 6, dipped a wheel on the Astro. I think we'll see a fair few penalties, even by D1 standards this evening. Turn 6, turn 10, and turn 2 on the, well, I suppose you could call it the exit of 1 more so. A tricky spots for invalidations there. And it was a nice first sector from Sweet Crown at 26.6, but it's not done him anything. Speaking of 26.6, NSX Cucumber's done the same, and he's also going to get a similarly excellent, well, not quite as excellent actually. That's a bit messed up there from the 2 Alfa Romeos, but he tried to get a slipstream from Connor. Connor a little slow to pull the trigger on when he went. This looks nice, very committed, much more committed than Montana, into turn 9, and using all the curb on the exit, almost Timo Glock style there from 2008 for NSX Cucumber. Let's see how he attacks turn 10. Perfect, just almost kisses the curb at a tangent. You don't want to hit it, it slows you down. Uses the curb there to wrap his car around the corner. Last 2 to go, that is inch perfect. Kisses the yellow line, not the curb. That was not inch perfect. A big moment there. That'll cost him a good quarter of a second or so, but it's still going to be an all right time. Across the line, it's a 16.8, goes P5. And I dare say he would have been in well amongst those front 2 rows had he not made that mistake there.
I was just about to say that's a driver well in tune with his setup. He looked absolutely on rails throughout the duration of that lap, and ultimately, yeah, just coming undone right at the end. But certainly the pace is there for NSX Cucumber. They're beginning the second runs now. Connor is back out there. We'll see if he is able to have better fortune this time around. And again, Alfa Romeo, we've seen this as well as Aston Martin. They're going to run this slipstream. Well, the Cucumber exited. My goodness, Connor! Huge snap on the exit of turn 7. Manages to gather it back up. Won't help his momentum. This is a much more cautious slipstream from far out then. Connor is going to get a good drag up towards top speed, and 43.9 to the first 2 sectors. Just kisses the wall on the entry to turn 9. Manages to just ease the car out towards the exit curve of turn 10, and now heading up towards turn 11. Let's see how the line is. He's committed a little bit of locking. Manages to hold on to it. Now he's going to flick this into T12 over both curbs. Looks to be within his limits, it must be said. I think he is leaving a little something on the table, of course, having had that first run come undone, but he is going to get a nice clean run to the final corner, and now up to the line. 16.523 is a time to beat from Montana, and he does just beat that by half a tenth. NSX Connor now to the top of the timesheets, and the first driver under the 16.5 landmark now.
I still feel like we're a couple of tenths away from where the ultimate pace should be, but you did raise that point that I think it is going to be a bit of a nervy session, particularly with how easy it is just to creep across the yellow lines and invalidate around. Let's see what Justas can do in the first sector. 26.4 in the first sector from Justas. This is a man on an absolute mission. Look at that commitment through turn 6 as well. He's got a couple of cars in his way, though. He's going to have to thread the needle through there. The AlphaTauri is that Gary or Saturn doesn't know which way to go. Let's have a look now through turns 9 and 10. I know from some practice earlier on that Justas is running quite high wings, but that looks really nice. A much more aggressive cut through 10 as well. Approaching more traffic. He's got 3 cars to contend with. All 3 stay out of his way. That was that the Alfa Romeo? No, it wasn't. It was a Mercedes. Why did I think that was an Alfa Romeo? Just avoiding getting in his way there on the apex, and that was nice again through 12 into 13 and 14. Oh, look at that again, just kissing the yellow line. Perfect, what you want from Justas. This is going to lower the bar somewhat, I think. His teammate didn't have a good first run. Felipe went invalid, but it's a 16.375, thinking of a 10th clear for him, and that's Nathan starting. Is that not finishing? I think we've got Julbream improving, but I don't think anyone else is immediately about to cross the line.
And in contrast to Connor and Montana, maybe very minute slipstream potentially for the final sector or for the middle sector from Justas. He lost about half of the advantage he had through the first sector in that middle sector, but still manages to set the fastest time. Never mind, Montana just goes that little bit quicker. 16.317 then, improving his time by 0.2 of a second and going to the top by some 600ths of a second. So now we're getting towards that ultimate pace that you mentioned, around about 16.1, 16.2. Montana 16.3 is not far off that at all. So he's beginning to creep down, and the lap times are coming in now at this middle phase of the session, and I think we'll see big improvements, especially from some of the drivers lower down that probably have a lot more time to find. Yeah,
Mohammed just shaved half a second of his time. Verstappen is 600s up as well. Julbream just leapt P6, although was then immediately demoted by, I want to say, who was that's just got in there? Liam, possibly. Yes, in the Williams indeed. Let's see what Verstappen can do through the last 2 corners. Can he match his namesake and snatch a pole position? I doubt it, but we've been shocked before. Let's see what Verstappen can do across the line. He's got tidy pace regardless. It's going to be a 16. It's going to be a comfortable 16. 16.690. Slots between Spine and Liam. And I don't think we've got anyone else improving. Rocco has just finished his lap. He's improved by half a second. He's done a 17.1. Not particularly quick down here. We've got Sweet Crown. Did go in battle on the first lap. Let's see what he can do through turns 9 and 10 this time. What's his middle sector like? A 44.1. That's not particularly great. And then misses turns 9 and then completely messes up. Nearly dropped an F-bomb then. Turn 10 into the process. So this last sector is just about gathering as much as he can and minimising his losses, because this is going to put him maybe not even top 10, possibly low end of the top 10 around Izat and Cucumber on the 16.8 club. Let's see what Sweet Crown can do around the last corner. And let's stay to left-hand side for a nice short run to the line, and it is going to be a 16, and it is a 16.8. And he does go between Cucumber and Izat. So I wasn't trying to be clever there, but I got luckily prophetic.
Slides right into the middle, yes. Sweet Crown, probably not the best execution, I think, on that lap compared to what he is indeed capable of. The time is beginning to tick down in this session, so we've really got to see some of the drivers, especially some of those guys in the lower third of the field, a lot more pressure on those guys to really open up and get a stronger lap time in. So Montana up front, Justas, Connor, Spain, the front 2 rows. And have you picked up on something, Jake? Who's on a lap right now?
It was Felipe on a lap. He was very poor first 2 sectors. He was on a 44.7 across the second split. And then as he come around turn 12, the back end just stepped out on a massive slide. It would have cost him a huge amount. Does set a lap, but it's a 17.7. And goes Falcon and Ben JS keeping him company there in the mid 1 minute 17 club. But all 3 of those looking some way adrift from the rest of the field right now. Gary, I'm not particularly impressed with. He's on a 17.1 so far and is invalid on his second attempt, probably at turn 6. So I think he'll bail on that and come straight back into the pits. Sweet Crown is coming into the pits. Connor is on a lap, I want to say. I think yes. He is coming round turn 4. So let's pick this one up then. And the back end wanting to step out, squirming away, and you'll notice that a lot in the race, that when the rear tyres start to go, the back end just complains constantly. 26.5 first sector, and then if I am going to drop an F-bomb, we were talking about that before we went on air. It is a 12A rated stream. I could do one, and we still be rated 12A by the British Board of Film Classification. I'm not going to drop one there, but NSX Connor dragging his car, his Alfa Romeo, kick through the kitty litter there, and yes, that is... I mean, he's got a good lap on the board, so he can still go again, but Or will he go again? Because he messed up his first lap with the crash. Then the time he's got is his second lap. This will be his third set of tyres. Unless he's picked the softer tyre allocation option, this is going to be Connor done for the session.
Well, let's see if what he does is he heads into the pit lane and actually just hits the wall on the way in. He did catch the grass on the entry to T6, which is what pushed him wide there, but we'll see if he does indeed retire. Doesn't look to be immediately, but we will see. QVR Nathan on a lap right now, but he is some half a tenth down, and again, not the greatest execution. Rear end's dancing around, manages to just rescue it at a turn 10, but I think he realised he was down and has decided to back off on that one. So I think Matthew Forte and Ghost Falcon, the two McLarens, are the only other cars on laps at the moment. So Ghost Falcon is further along. We'll see how he does. We're under 4 minutes to go in the session, and Ghost Falcon, well, that rear end looks incredibly nervous. He's completely out of battery as well. I'm not sure if he is actually on a push lap at this stage. He's going to have to make that decision quickly, though. He does indeed dive to the pit lane. So Matthew Forte now the only car left on the track, and the only car that hasn't set a lap time, so he needs to get this one right, and the middle sector is not great, and well, horrible line, it must be said, through the chicane, and well, Matthew Forte's not having the session he planned for, I think, at this stage.
Yeah, his first sector was good. It was a low 26.6, but he must have made a balls up of turn 6, and then turns 9 and 10 just compounded the error, and again, he's going to play catch up through the last sector, as Sweet Crown had to do. He's opening up turn 13 as much as he possibly can, do the same with 14, just feather the throttle all the way through until you're convinced the car will stick, and then to the line. It's going to be a 17. It's a low 17 though. P13, given he only had, it was 1 and out for Matt 240. That's not I'm going to generously say it's not a bad attempt, but I think any driver in D1 really who's not hitting the 16s will be a little bit disappointed. Let's pick up Montana, provisional pole sitter, a third of a tenth up through the first sector, and get some good slipstream as well. Lost a shade of it, a quarter of a tenth through the middle, but looked nice through turns 9 and 10. I do wonder if that traffic, the Ferrari, and then getting out of the way of his teammate, just might have unsettled his eyeline a little bit. Looked nice through turn 11. Let's see what 12. Car not understeering as it did on his first attempt, being very generous to the curb on the exit there. Touches, or strays a touch wide at 13. 14 looks a lot more confident. This is going to be possibly an improvement. It didn't look like an amazing final sector. It was enough. It's a 16.2, and we have got into that realm that I was expecting most of our sharp end to be, around a 16.2, 16.3, as his teammate Spine just starts the lap. I don't think we've got anyone else has started yet. And what have you just seen there?
Spine, exit of turn 1, runs a little bit too wide and has invalidated that lap time, and I highly doubt he may be able to get onto another lap, but well, that's provided he has the fuel for it, but of course he's going to be heavily compromised. I didn't think that lap from Montana looked great. I thought it was a quite messy, bit poorly executed, so despite the 16.2 shows what I know, but I think it is beatable, so let's see how the other guys are going to shake up in comparison. They're all starting the final runs now. I'm not sure who the furthest car along is. I think
Gary.
it is Gary, who's just come through the first sector of his lap then, so I'll hand over to you, Jake, now to take us through the final sector of this session, really. Let's see how it all unfolds. Montana on top, we'll see if he holds on to it.
Well, we will switch to Felipe, because you are right, Felipe is the furthest ahead. He was on a 44.4 through the middle sector, much better than his first attempt, which was a 44.7, 2 corners to go. Oh, and he snags some grass there and then skittles off the tracks like Sebastian Vettel did back in 2016. Ben Jess is up by a third of a tenth through the middle sector. He's on a 44.3 as Montana retires from the session. Let's see what Ben Jess can do. Can he get himself off the back row of the grid here in his D1 debut? If he keeps his lap together, he may just well do. It's not going to be a 16, it's a 17.4. He stays P18. Let's have a look at Gary. He desperately needs improvement. 44.1 to the middle sector, that's much more like it, and does go 16.7, P8. Nice stuff from the AlphaTauris. Let's see, Nathan's backed off. He's not going to improve. Justas has just started his lap. Verstappen's coming to the end. Look at Verstappen, a quarter of a second up through the middle sector. This is a mammoth lap from Verstappen. Really wrestling with the car through turn 12. 13, oh, that was sweet as you like through there. Be so gentle through 14. Don't get greedy. He doesn't get greedy. This is going to be a really nice lap, and this could put him on the front 2 rows of the grid. He goes P3 for Verstappen as we just switch to Connor. He's squirming way through turn 4. Let's see what Justas does through the middle sector. He's done a 26.4 again for the first sector. So he's all by himself in Sector 1. He's going to lose time through Sector 2, inevitably so, because he's got running those higher wings, then goes wide at turn 10. That's an invalidation. Connor's done a 26.5 through the first sector. That's good for him. What can he do? He's on that full set of tyres, 43.9. He's up by only 100 now,
dear.
and he goes invalid, and he's off, and he's out. And Nathan's not going to improve. Gary's already finished his lap. Cucumber is invalid. I think that might just be that. Slash is invalid. I need to stop calling him Slash. Benjis has already finished his lap. Felipe's finished his lap. That is your lot, Dakar. And it's Montana and Justas front row. It's an all D1 champion front row lockout. But look at Verstappen up there getting in and amongst the NSX past and present up there.
Justas did finish his lap and he did a 26.227, which would have been good enough for pole position, but ultimately the execution not coming through in the end. So yeah, Montana Justas, Verstappen the big surprise though, P3, great lap from him, and ultimately, even though maybe he doesn't have the most raw pace, it does show execution is everything, and you can see that there. Several drivers, I think, especially on those final runs, when you have to really put everything on the line, the laps, for a lot of these drivers, just not coming together.
Sorry, I'm just having a read of chat, see if we've got anything in, a little lull between qualifying the race. Nothing interesting happening there. Holly Wakefield says, hello, everyone. But it is Montana on pole from Justas. What a spicy, tasty, sumptuously juicy front row that is to whet your appetite for the season ahead. Verstappen and Connor lock out row 2. Then it's Spine and Nathan. I don't think there's could be much between those guys in the race. I think any of them could end up on top depending on which way it goes. We don't even know what the weather's going to do in the race. Yeah, I presume it's going to be dry. Then it's Liam and Jewelbream on row 4. Then Gary and Cucumber complete the top 10. Sweet Crown and Izat 11th and 12th. Then goes Falcon, Mohammed, Matsu40, Marty, Rocco, all within a second of pole. And then Ben Jess and Felipe 18th and 19th. Not too good for the two Division 2 promotees in that session, and they don't really have too much of an excuse. I know that's a bit brutal to say, but they were very far adrift and they looked a little bit like a fish out of water in that session. But it is the race where the points and the prizes are given out, isn't it? And there's no reason why one of those guys with a bit of a chaotic race can't find their way into the top 12. And it's worth noting, if you are joining us for the first time, we always get a viewership spike at the start of the season, especially at the start of a game cycle. If you are new to League of Europe, we give out points to the top 12. The top 6 are as you were, and then it goes 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to fill out. No, sorry, the top 7 are as you were, then it goes 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for 7th down to 12th place to round out the points. That goes for drivers and constructors. And there is no formation lap. I forgot that. So let's get season 10 underway, shall we? They've picked their tyres. I've got no idea what they're on. It's Montana and Justas to lead them away. And it's looked like a clean getaway from all involved. Montana covers off the lead of the race into turn 1. Nathan nabs ahead of Spine. They're single file as they come through turn 1. Connor takes P4. Spine's into 5th. He's dicing away with Nathan. And there's a yellow flag in the background. We've got Marty's down, and we've got Nathan alongside, up the inside of Spine into turn 3. Can he get that through? He clobbers the inside curb, and Spine's going to come out just on top as they filter their way through. Sweet Crown and Gary battling away in turn 4. Gary's off the track, gets an instant penalty for that. We've got a Ferrari round in the background collected by Matt 240 in the McLaren. That's Mohammed and Matt 240 at the back, and Marty had a moment as well somewhere because they've all dropped well off the field. But at the front of the field, that was nice and clean. Let's quickly check in with the tyres that we've got. We've got mediums and hards all the way. Mediums for the front too. Everyone else is on hard medium. We've got Cucumber and Gary. Gary's in it, the thick of it again as we come towards turn 9 on this opening lap. But it's looking fairly tidy. Nathan is having another run at Spine towards turn 11, and he's got a tremendous run. He must be running some lower wings there, Nathan. Up the inside, no DRS, of course. And is he just going to run the Aston Martin right to the outside of the track? He is. And Liam nearly picking up some sloppy seconds there from Nathan. And Jewelbream through as well. That's a bit of a horror show for Spine. I wonder if we'll be reporting that to the stewards. But at the end of the first lap of season 10, Dakar, it's Montana from Justas, from Verstappen, from Connor, from Nathan, from Liam, from Jewelbream, from Spine, Sweet Crown, Cucumber, and then Gary and Falcon complete the points places.
Indeed, so they all run line astern at the moment. Then Montana leading it from Justas. Of course, differences will occur in the way these tyres fire up. So Spain, it was a disaster for him to lose out early. Cucumber is the man that needs to be on the charge, and he dives to the inside of turn number 3. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact between them now into turn 4. Inside to Sweet Crown, but is he going to have the grip over on the inside? Cucumber goes away. Another instant penalty. They bang wheels into the entry of turn 5. They managed to just about get away. I don't think with any damage, but it's quite hard to see at this stage. Cucumber does get the possession, trying to be very aggressive on this opening to the race. He's now up behind Spain, trying to get himself within that DRS range. He's already used a lot of battery, and well, battery of course and DRS, huge buzzwords you could probably expect throughout this race. And speaking of DRS, well, the top two have already broken it. The medium runners, as they needed to, have gotten away from QVR Verstappen in third position at the moment, 1.5 seconds, and at the moment that's going to allow Montana and Justas to run their own race at the moment. They've managed to get that separation that I'm sure they wanted.
The tyres start to go off very quickly, not necessarily in terms of performance, but in terms of the way they feel. And those mediums, I don't think they're going to gap Verstappen perhaps as much as it feels like. It looks ominous right now, 1.5 seconds. I don't think that gap's going to grow a huge amount over the next 4 or 5 laps. I think you'll see Verstappen probably settle around 3 seconds behind those guys. And let's have a look back to, we've got Gilbream and Spine is where it's at now towards turn 3. And that's going to be a nice, easy overtake for Spine. We've got DRS until we get past turns 9 and 10 this lap, but again, probably running lower wings than the Haas. And he is through.
And Gilbream, it has been that has struggled to keep with the pace, so Spain, crucial move to get that one stuck. Gilbream now will probably be looking over his shoulder. NSX Cucumber will probably be very interested. Lots of these guys have burned off some of the battery, including Cucumber, who's trying to make ground early. He has monstrous straight line speed, but ultimately too much straight line speed. He has to dart to the inside, manages to control the rear end just about, and he gets the upper hand heading into T9. Completes that move, runs wide though, but manages to gather it back. Bit of a snap, and Gilbream's going to come back. He isn't using that battery though, so I don't think he's interested in fighting this. Matthew 40 with a penalty. Cucumber will dive late on the brakes. He's been very aggressive in these opening laps. Gilbream ultimately just settling on sitting in behind, trying to stay afloat here with Sweet Crown in behind him. So the top two lead it though, 1 and 2. Verstappen 2 seconds back. The second lap for Montana was in the 119s, which is monstrous pace. It's beginning to settle down now, but he's used a lot of battery. Justas slightly yet less, and I think Verstappen is just going to run his own race. As Matthew 40, I think out the final corner, he's had an incident. He's gone into the wall. The front right tyre has come off, and that is an early safety car, first safety car of the season already deployed, as we just head on to what is now the 4th lap of the race.
I did say in qualifying, it's such a twitchy, sketchy corner. Turn 14, you're never quite sure, or at least I'm not, that the car's going to stick when I want to put the throttle down. It feels like the back end can just step out on you. And it will be this point already starting lap 4 where you will just start to feel a bit of a loss of grip from the tyres. You'll start to slide a bit more, particularly on the rear. And that's very unfortunate for Matt. But it does, it truncates the field a little bit, and it causes a bit of a headache, I think, for Montana and Justas, because that 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds they get eked out over Verstappen and Connor is going to be nullified for 1, and for 2, if they pit now for hards, I don't think they will, but if they do, those hards are going to be shockingly bad by the end of the race. So it's a bit like a catch-22 situation. I don't think they can really win from the safety car at all. It's got Rocco and Felipe changing places under the safety car. But yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll come in, but you know, I'm wrong more often than I'm right when I commentate Division 1, so let's see. And I think Montana duped it there. But no, they're staying out, and this is going to cause a problem for them. I don't think it necessarily makes Verstappen favourite for this race, but it gives him, I think, a much stronger chance at challenging those front two that he otherwise did have.
Yeah, I think it would have been idiotic to come into the pits, I think, at this stage in the race, because, to be honest, even the hard tyres don't have incredible life around this circuit. So they're all going to come back together now. Ben JS does go to the pit lane. He puts on a set of fresh mediums, and of course those guys near the back that aren't sacrificing the track position, well, that pit stop is a much easier choice to make. So he's going to emerge well down the order, but on the best tyres in the race. And he'd probably run, I imagine, somewhat on strategy with the leaders, but obviously with that bit of a tyre advantage. So it's not a bad situation for him, despite being at the very back of the field. Now, of course, the advantage that the medium runners do have here is, of course, lighting up the tyres after the safety car restart. So Verstappen has got a big job here as he's sat in behind to try and keep the temperature in those tyres. If he can do that, I don't know if he's going to want to sacrifice his battery trying to keep up with the two leaders at the moment, because they did pull away very quickly before. So interesting to see how Verstappen plays this in particular, as you said, this has thrown him into a very good position. Of course, though, it may make things a bit easier for the medium runners, conversely, even though they've lost their advantage. Managing those tyres becomes a little bit easier, and getting the life out of them does set up that strategy for later on in the race. So I don't think it's as bad a situation for Montana and Justas. We'll see, of course, how things evolve.
Yeah, I think we're going to expect... Safety car's light's gone off. Is it coming in this lap? The lights have gone off. Is it coming in this lap? No, they're not. No, it's not. No. It's just the yellow flag thing flashed back on. And I looked like the lights got off the safety car. I thought, is it coming in this lap? But no, it's not. That would be idiotic. The pit window, before I interrupt my own train of thought, was is around half distance in Montana again. Just baiting Justas there. Is around lap 14, 15. So what you're going to find is that probably the medium runners and the hard runners are all going to pit around the same time, regardless of what tyre they're on, which will make the overcut quite interesting. The undercut here is very powerful. You go from hards to mediums, you're looking at about 2 seconds for one lap, 3 seconds probably for a second lap. So once one comes in, I think they're all going to come in if they've got any common sense, and I'd expect them all to come in around lap 14. Really, you want to maximise the amount of time you're on the medium tyre. You might get someone like, I don't know, Spinal Cucumber, if they feel like they've got a lot of fundamental inherent pace, that they're being held up in any way. They might come in a touch earlier from the medium to the hard, or vice versa for anyone who's on the hard, but I think everyone's going to come in around half distance. That's my inkling. But we shall see. I think I'm confused why Ben JS and Mohammed are both on fresh medium, and they're expecting to take those tyres to the end of the race. That would be a stretch.
Yes, I highly doubt that's what they're going for. It does put a lot of pressure on them on this restart to make ground very quickly. So we'll see as a safety car. There we go. Now it is coming in this lap, then we can finally confirm that for you. So those two Ferraris, we'll see if they can make any sort of progress. Of course, Australia, not the easiest track to overtake, especially when you're in a DRS train. But for the guys that are running lower wings, is Marty has had some sort of incident before the entry of turn 9, and I have no idea what.
Another one for the LOE Safety Car Hall of Fame there. Montana has a couple of those himself. But at least that doesn't burden us with another 3 laps of having to talk to each other without any racing happening. So let's see when Montana goes then. He's going very slowly. He'll be able to go as soon as safety car hits the pit lane entry line, which is now. So this is the earliest Montana can go, and it's the earliest he's chosen to go, as he lights up the tyres out of turn 11 through 12, and Justas is already half a second back here. And he's done a nice job of stringing the train out here. They can't overtake before the line, of course, but it's going to be Montana as we start lap 7 of this race and this season. Who leads them away? From Justas, from Verstappen, from Connor, from Nathan. And the big question is, can the front two build any kind of gap reminiscent of what they had prior to the safety car? Everyone navigates turn 1 nicely. No one touches the bulbous curb of death on the inside of turn 1. And we have got a little bit of racing here. It's Izat versus Ghost Falcon towards turn 3. Ghost Falcon's sending up the inside there. Does a double take and it quickly backs out of it. But wonder if Izat did have a sluggish run through 1, and that just invited Falcon to have a go. But a nice clean restart from all involved there.
And heavy use of the battery from the entire field here, of course. It's a massive scramble to try and stay in that train, especially with the pace at the front being so high. Montana and Justas have managed to establish that gap. Verstappen has used about half of his battery, but the pace not quite there. Nathan looks to be on the attack. He's got a much better exit than Connor from turn 10. He's now going to go on the offensive. Connor covers to the inside line. He's going to force Nathan the long way around, and Nathan thinks better of it then, of trying to go all the way to the outside. Connor with a big snap on the exit of 11. But ultimately he is going to just about hang on to that place. His rear end is dancing all over the place. Then Connor does not look comfortable at all, and the gap to Verstappen is opening rapidly at this phase of the race. He immediately gets on the battery, tries to surge away. Liam is also in the back of this now, so that's the hard train essentially. Spain and Cucumber predictably are able to go with this on the mediums as Spain runs wide through turn 1 and gets a penalty. And well, you mentioned there could be penalties tonight, and I think we are seeing that. These drivers at the moment struggling to keep it within the white lines, and well, penalties could be very crucial as to how the final order is going to be played out.
Was that the camera angle cutting away? Was that Spine having a big moment on traction out of 3? It looked like the car was at a 45-degree angle as he just hit the throttle out of 3 towards 4. I did say the rears will start to slide. You will notice that, particularly through the lower speed corners, guys will start to struggle. As Verstappen has just been pegged a little bit by Connor from threatening to storm out of DRS range with Connor's sketchy Sector 3 last lap. And Connor does have another sketchy moment in Sector 3, this time at turn 10. That's going to give Nathan another run, but the ERS usage neutralising each other a little bit there. I think Nathan will have to wait for some DRS, but the trouble is, for him, that Connor's going to get that DRS as well, as Ben Jess and Felipe swap places into turn 11. Still side by side as we come towards 12 now. Ben Jess has the inside line and narrowly avoiding contact there. It's nose to tail between the two Ferraris and the Division 2 champion, of course. He'll be devastated, I'm sure, if we don't mention that title a couple of times. As here comes Mohammed up the inside towards turn 1. Is he feeling bold? No, he has a cheeky little downshift into 7th gear and still nearly ends up running into the back of the Alpine. Into turn 1, the Ferraris on the fresher mediums, of course. They should be wanting to make the most of those while they can. Slash is coming to the outside now. Is he going to switch to the inside? He does a cheeky switcheroo, as David Croft likes to say, and he gets the car slowed down just in time. And that was a nice overtake from Mohammed. I'll send that one to Ivor Bryn Mike for some overtakes of the week on the LOE YouTube channel. Look at Yestas there.
Yestas is going to go through. I think then Montana, is going to gift up that lead. They're both fairly even on battery, but Yestas just coming flying through to the front, and Montana letting him go then, sliding the rear end through turn 10. Yestas has the lead of the race, and of course with that double DRS zone, he's going to use that to try and pull away. Both these guys are very low on battery. The hard train behind has saved it a little bit more as Spain to the inside of Liam, and that's the ERS advantage as well working out for Spain. Liam was already running low, so Spain does get that move done, trying to recover from that incident with Nathan on the opening lap, and that is the car in front of him. QVR Nathan just up the road. Cucumber, I imagine, will be looking to try and follow through as Liam looks to be struggling for pace a little bit more than the rest of the train. Yobim and Sweet Crown are coming back towards it. Sweet Crown now deploying on the main straight. He's going to come flying up and alongside Yobim, and through goes the Red Bull. He now runs P9 on the track at this stage. So Sweet Crown now moving further up the points paying possessions. The gap at the front between Montana and Verstappen, that's the key one. It's 2.4 seconds, but Verstappen has decided to hold back a bit more on the battery. But these guys now all running in a train, still watching out for the medium runners, but now again they're probably at that graining phase, probably going to be struggling a little bit more at this stage. But the pace of the front two, it doesn't seem to be opening up the gap anymore. It seems as though it's beginning to stabilise, so maybe that overlap performance is beginning to come through as the hards begin to hold out just that little bit better. Connor around the outside, sweeps in a P3, that TRS, so powerful down the back straight.
It is worth mentioning that gradient phase because the tyres do go off and then come back to you a little bit. Not necessarily in terms of performance, but in terms of the way they feel. They feel awful, and then they'll feel awful for a good 4 or 5 laps, and then suddenly they'll be okay again for a little bit. As is that Ben Jess having a look at Rocco towards turn 11, thinks better of it, hangs on to P15 for the time being. But the field is very condensed. I know we've had a safety car, but no one's really letting anyone get too far ahead of them. Our biggest gap in the field right now, apart from between Montana and Connor, is Ghost Falcon. He's only 1.1 seconds off, as that's a big moment for Izzat out of the last corner. He's having to use some airs here to keep Rocco behind him, and the two Ferraris as well. Liam picks up a penalty. He's in P7 right now, and Izzat having to use some precious... Oh, what a big crash there! Oh. Izzat's out of the race. I think he did that all by himself. It's going to be a safety car. I think we're going to see the whole field come in for some tyres now. I think Izzat did that completely by himself. On the exit of 2, I think he might have just been a bit too racy with the Astro. He was defending the position because he had a shoddy last corner. No one else hit him, I don't think. Doesn't look like there's any visible damage around for the Ferraris or for Rocco that I can see. I think Izzat just dropped it at the exit of turn 2, but he dropped it very late in the day because he ended up quite far down the straight. That's an odd incident for Izzat.
And it does, of course, change the dynamic of the race once more. Now we are...
Connor
had an off.
He had an off at turn 9. Was up against the wall between turns 9 and 10. Was saved by the yellow flag mandating that Verstappen let him back through, but that was bizarre. He just brain dead, sleptwalked into an incident at turn 9, was up on the grass on the left-hand side of the track as you come through 9. That was odd. That was very odd. Everyone's coming into the pits now.
Yes, predictably, and now that medium and hard dynamic is going to be completely switched as, well, everyone is going to pit onto the opposite compound. Of course, the order can change very quickly through this pit phase, so let's keep an eye out. I wonder if anyone's going to gamble on the softs. I highly, highly doubt it. Oh, never mind. Kvyat Verstappen has opted to put on the red wall tyres from 4th position. Felipe, by the way, the only car to stay out, so he goes from the back of the field to the front, just narrowly gets out in front of Justas. So he is going to lead some laps in Division 1 then on his debut. But Verstappen, that's a big surprise. Those soft tyres, I wonder what the thought is here from Kvyat Verstappen to go for those tyres, because I'm not sure how they're going to be able to last out. Or does he want to go for a 2-stop strategy? I'm not sure, but Kvyat Verstappen, that seems like a bizarre choice to me.
I think he's working on the assumption that a soft medium from here will be quicker than a medium alone or a hard alone. I mean, he couldn't have gone to another hard, but I think he's working on the assumption that, you know, a 1-stop from where he is now is quicker than a no-stop, because it's, you know, the undercut is about 2 seconds a lap to start with. So, you know, if he gets some clean air, why not? I have a suspicion that if Ariel Felipe is on NSX Montana's Christmas card list, he's about to find himself off it in about 8 or 9 minutes' time. If he, I can only imagine that. Other than pure shithousery for the sake of shithousery, I think he's here very much from a position of help Justas. So I'm expecting Justas gets released and we get some Checo Perez Abu Dhabi 2021 defending through the first sector, maybe even the final sector. We can stay ahead for that long from Felipe. So I'm intrigued how that one's going to play out, and I'm sure Montana, he's already arch enemies with Ariel Coxey from Singapore a couple of seasons ago. I think he's going to find himself in a similar situation with Felipe soon enough. Ben Jess has gone back onto the hard tyre he started the race on. That is not going to be a fun tyre by the end of the race. Is Connor? Oh no, Connor and Felipe coming into the pits.
Well, that seems to be... I wonder if Connor... What tyres is he going to go on to? I'm curious here. He's opting for the soft. He's doing a wing change. So maybe that incident you mentioned at turn 9, maybe he did damage the wing there. So he puts on the soft, and I imagine he may try that. Maybe soft medium or double soft potentially to the end of the race. But Connor, well, clearly the damage was compromising and he had to get in there, but yeah, that's going to set him back big time. A lot of overtaking to be done from him now. I'm just
standing up and squinting at my TV screen, my monitor, sorry, I'm cultured, I don't have a TV screen, I have a monitor, to see what the fuel situation is. We've got Justas 1.5 laps, Montana 1.2, Verstappen 1.8, Nathan 0.9, 2.8 for Liam, 1.7 for Spine, 1.9 for Sweet Crown, 2.6 for Cucumber, 2.9 for Jewel Bream, 1.7 for Gary, 0.6 for Ghost Falcon. That's interesting. He's been a very aggressive on fuel. 2.6 for Ben JS, 1.9 for Rocco, 3 laps for Mohammed, 2.8 laps for Felipe, and 0.6 for Connor. And when you're in Division 1, I think, safety car in this lap, it makes a difference whether you're running an extra lap or 2 laps of fuel. It can give you over a tenth, 2 tenths a lap. So I think it's worth noting that we've got a couple of drivers there who are running very heavy. Liam, from the top of the field, is the main culprit there. So I feel like we should be seeing some more fuel burning there, but not wise for the Jarno Opmeer strats. As my off-car camera, briefly, was stuck on turn 10 then, even though the cars had waltzed by. But it's going to be Justas leading us across the line this time, and he has gone... He's tried to go early. The game's not going to let him because the safety car's not hit the pit lane yet. All that shows what I know. It has let him go. But he went monstrously early. But here we are. We're back underway. We're going to go on to lap 14. We're approaching half distance here. We're a lap and a half away. And it's going to be Justas from Montana, from Verstappen on those soft tyres, of course. And then Nathan and Liam behind on mediums. Can these guys get amongst the big two boys at the front of the field on their quicker rubber. As Verstappen all goes very deep into turn one, that won't help his chances. As Rocco and Ben JS are added again into turn one. Rocco's through this time. Ben JS on the probably, other than, well, he's on the worst tyres on the road. His teammate's now going to come around the outside of him towards turn three. Ben JS is not having a happy day. Neither Ferrari is, to be honest, but Mohammed is through. So let's have a look at those gaps up front. And it is very close. And you got to say, Daka, that Verstappen and Nathan and Liam all look much quicker than those ahead of them.
Now they have the tyre advantage. Verstappen already using that overtake button. He needs to get these moves done. I know these guys seem to be the two fastest tonight, but the manoeuvre is going to have to come through for Verstappen if he wants to make that progress. Sweet Crown sweeps around the outside of turn 8, gets the move done on Spain, who falls back now with the tyre disadvantage.
Here we go.
This stage. Connor is also making a move now. Verstappen up on the inside of Montana, goes deep to the inside. Can he get it stopped in turn 10? Yes, he can. He has much more grip at this stage in the race, and I imagine that Justas could be easy pickings up front, and Justas probably doesn't want to fight that too hard. We will see as they all run in unison. Sweet Crown trying to bridge back across. These guys, of course, had to be held up behind Spain and Cucumber, who will probably be holding back all the drivers behind at this stage in the race. Verstappen predictably the fastest lap, and he is all over the back of Justas, and I expect you'll see a lead change very soon, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe not towards turn 3. Verstappen opting not to use. He just blips the overtake on just a little bit to aid his straight line speed, but he's going to wait for the longer straights further down the lap. Montana then has got to be careful here that he doesn't sacrifice too much at this stage in the race. Nathan, Liam, Sweet Crown, they're all faster at this stage at the race, but unlike with Verstappen, Montana will not, well, he will have to try to do everything he can not to cede these positions, because that's going to put him on the back foot no end, especially as Justas still continues to lead this race. Not sure for how much longer, in fact not for any longer. Verstappen to the inside, they almost touch through the long sweeping left-hander, but Verstappen does get the lead, and now he's going to have to try and pull away. So now Justas and Montana, who are pulling away from the field, they're going to have to look over their shoulder. Nathan is using a lot of battery, but ultimately unable to draw near enough, so he runs just behind Montana, and Justas will try and hold on to Verstappen for as long as possible. But you can see the grip of the mediums versus the hards, but of course in a few laps time that order will reverse itself. So the likes of Nathan, they're going to have to get on with it. If they want to challenge for this race win, they've got to be on the offensive now.
Bold and racy with his tyre strategy. Bold and racy on the track from Verstappen. That was fabulous. He needed to make those two overtakes. He did so aggressively and assertively. Second penalty of the day for Gary. If he's lucky, he'll get that reduced to 1, given his instant penalty earlier on. We've now got DRS enabled. It won't come into effect until at the exit of turn 10. But I'm surprised Nathan's not climbing over the back of that Aston Martin a little more. First couple of laps, you'd expect the mediums to have much more of an advantage. I think we're already getting towards the point where they'll start to equalise just a little bit when they hit that slidey phase. The drop-off is quite different to how it is in 22 on this game. You get 2 or 3 laps of real performance, and then you'll suddenly just drop a second. And you'll just trade away 2-3 tenths a lap thereafter. But because the softs do come back, and there is a point later on in the stint where the softs, the mediums, the hards are all kind of fairly equal for a good few laps in a row. If Verstappen has got the wings to deal with any attack from Justas here, I think he could keep these guys behind and be a major irritation and factor in who wins this race, and he could even win it himself. Connor passes Rocco into turn 11, and he needed to make that move, having made his wing change earlier on. But look at those gaps on the left-hand side. No one more than half a second back from the car in front of them, all the way down to Gary in 10th place. It is absolutely breathlessly hair's width between these guys as we now come onto lap 17, and we've now got DRS down the main straight and towards turn 3 for the first time in this race. Montana, I think, has got a slight advantage over Justas, given Justas his higher wings that he seems to be running. We saw that with how easy it was for Verstappen to blast past without any DRS at all towards turn 9. But these guys are so careful. A little twitch there for Liam coming out of turn 4. It is just, we're in a bit of a holding pattern right now, but it feels like one mistake from any of these guys could kick up an absolute poo storm behind them.
That's a new term to my ears, it must be said.
Sweet
Interestingly, as Sweet Crown is on the offensive on Liam, tries to sweep around the outside, and he does seem to have that speed, that top end in the Red Bull, and he's made a very nice drive through the field, now runs 5th and right up behind Nathan. He's the second highest medium runner. Interestingly, the two hard runners do seem very comfortable at this stage already. Justas is coming back at Verstappen, and well, he's still very, very high on the battery. So is Montana. They're both over 50%. That can't be said for, well, much of anyone else up ahead. So Verstappen leads it, but I don't know for how much longer, as Justas beginning to challenge, then half a second back. He is sitting back at the moment, and well, really, he can hold back for as long as he wants to. Probably will want to time this manoeuvre to a point where it gets him a gap. We'll see what Justas does. I don't think the move's going to come yet, but I think it will come soon.
Liam looks particularly close to the back of Sweetcraft. His problem is he's got no ERS at all. Liam has completely demolished his battery. The one who's simply is Justas on 70% right now. Verstappen, because he's leading the race, I think he's done all right to only be on 20% there. As Felipe passes Connor into turn 3. Connor's made a mistake because he's tumbled down the order down to P15. Now, we saw him overtake Rocco a lap or so ago. Let's see what's going on. What's chicken licking as we come through 8 towards 9 and 10. And Justas ran the outside of Verstappen into turn 9. That was fabulous, but then Justas is going to be so compromised on the exit. Montana wants a piece of this as well, but he's boxed in by the Alpine ahead and the AlphaTauri to his right, and he's ahead of the AlphaTauri. In fact, I thought it looked like Verstappen had such a good exit off 10 compared to Justas, and then suddenly he was nowhere.
I thought that was a miscalculation from Justas almost going for that move. It seemed like he could have gone past a lot easier and just decided to hold back. Maybe he wasn't expecting to get that move. He does get through anyway. Montana's sitting in behind him, and actually the situation has worked out very well indeed for Justas, who now leads away. Montana, though, right up behind him, and I imagine those two are about to go to war.
Nathan's coming.
Is right up behind Verstappen. He's going to look to the outside. Verstappen's not going to make it easy for him, though. Nathan's going to have to go the long way around. He tries to brake later, going up the outside of turn 3. Does he have the grip to pull this one off? Looks like he does. Inside of turn 4 is going to turn to his advantage, and he gets the move done. Verstappen already starting to go backwards. Now he's got Sweet Crown. He's got Liam right up behind him looking for a way through. So those guys are stacking up then. The grip beginning to disappear from these soft compound tyres, and he's got much less battery. Of course, Sweet Crown behind him, much more at his disposal, and he's going to fly past down this very happy hunting ground as Montana goes to the lead as well. So they're swapping and changing throughout this train. Montana leads, Justas now to second place, and those two beginning to pull away. Sweet Crown did get Verstappen, now he's bearing down on the podium and Nathan, so Montana now leads it, Justas in behind him, but right now there seems to be almost a bit of a sparring match between the two leaders. They swap positions, but it's only tactical at the moment. They aren't going at it just yet. They are going to be waiting around, I imagine. Nathan's going to try and keep pace with a bit less battery, but Justas has that battery advantage on Montana. We'll see if he can make it work. If Verstappen does dive to the pit lane, so that scenario you envision doesn't quite come to pass, he's going to be some way behind with a lot of work to do in this final stint.
That's unlucky. I mean, Verstappen's done that kind of thing before, where he's just gone for the other tyre just for giggles, and it's not necessarily come off for him. And I think today, of all days, he just needed to do the done thing and go for the medium tyre and he'd be where Nathan is. He might not have ever had the opportunity to take the lead of the race, but he'd be in for a very good haul of opening points. I had something I was going to... Oh, yeah, you said nice tactical battle between Justas and Montana. I was going to say it was a slide dig NSX. A tactical battle, but not a scripted one, as we saw far too often between Connor and Montana a couple of seasons ago. And here comes Justas down through turn 9, through this long sweeping left hand. He's going around the outside of turn 9 again, and he is back through and back into the lead of the race for Justas. And the longer these two dice away, the more they're going to keep Nathan in the battle, and the longer Nathan's in the battle, the more chance Nathan has of having a sniff of an overtake on one of these two, you have to say. That has just eked the field out a little bit, particularly with that pit stop for Verstappen, but the top 9 still covered by, let's have a look, 3.7 seconds covers 9 drivers, which is remarkably close. And Liam is looking also particularly close to the back of Spine right now, but his ERS disadvantage is a problem for him when it comes to making any overtakes. You can see Spine's driving away from him on the straight there. You can see on the helicam, and they've both got DRS. What's Montana doing through turn 2? Not close enough for a move. I think he just had a bit of a sluggish run, and he'll slip back. Penalty for Liam. Is that his second or his third of the day? Second of the day. We've got Rocco, who's on 4 penalties. And Julbream and Liam, 6 and 7, they're fighting over, both on the medium tyres. And Julbream goes around the outside of turn 4. Well done. He holds the line through to 5. And Liam's looked quick, but he he's going in the wrong direction a little bit right now, and that's just caused a break in the train between Spine and Gilbream. It's become a top 5 battle for the win rather than a top 9 right now. And Liam's going to try to come back at Gilbream towards turn 9 now.
Well, he was on the overtake button, didn't really have much use for it though. He's going to squeeze through on the inside and get that move done, and that's going to be a major annoyance to Gilbream because he's lost time that he really didn't have to lose. Liam, bit of a scrappy exit from T10. He's got the rear wing open that's going to help him defend. Gilbream moves up to the outside, and Gary is going to take them both on. He goes to the inside of turn 11.
Oh, contact.
Just about manages to get it stopped and turned in. He's got Gilbream up behind him. Gary, very bold and audacious move, maybe a little bit reckless. He does get ahead of Gilbream, and well, this is a fight, very entertaining, but ultimately it's costing all of these guys as the gap to the top 5 continues to widen.
Yeah, they're now well over, or I say well over, they're now spot on 2 seconds behind Spine. 1.5 seconds covers the top 5 of the race, average of just 0.3 per second between them. And Montana's got to be carefully pick his moments. Gary does now get past Liam into turn 3. Gilbream's going to try follow him through. He gets the outside of 3, tries the inside of 4. He's not close enough. Liam holds on and will fight another day. But Gary looks like he's already romping away from those guys. I wonder if he's dealing with the sliding on those tyres, on those medium tyres, a little bit better than Liam is. And Justas has had a good run through turn 6 because he's half a second clear of Montana, which is about as big a lead as anyone's had since that second safety car's come in, I want to say, and it's diminished to just 0.2 per second as they come towards turn 9. Look at Nathan though, he's quite close to the back of Montana this time, but Montana has a little more ERS to play with, not quite as much as they used to. They're about the same now actually, 44 for Montana through there, 41 for Nathan. Nathan's doing a good job here as Gary's been reeled straight back in by Liam, and I say that, but Liam looks like he needs to be looking in his mirrors more than he does ahead of him. Gilbream is going to have another go here, I think.
Yes, and wow, Liam, he's kicking out the rear end seemingly every corner under a lot of pressure, and it looks like his objective is just to keep with Gary, but before DRS zones, he should just about be able to do that, but Gilbream will try and come at him, though he may have other ideas. Cucumber is in behind then, in that top 9 group then. Just, of course, we are keeping an eye on the leaders, of course. Justas is not using his battery at all, as I think at the back of the field. Connor has had enough then, and Gilbream and Liam are battling yet again, and this time Gilbream does have the upper hand and the advantage and gets through, and Liam again all over the road. He's got Cucumber for company. He's already on the overtake button, but there's no way of going through there. Spain picks up a penalty, could be very crucial in fact going forward. As you can see, Cucumber hounding Liam and will surely get the move done there. Liam defends. Whoa! Cucumber has to put 2 wheels on the grass to find that space around then. Of course, it is a fairly extended DRS zone, but even still, very difficult to pick a way through because the line is ever changing and dynamic, so it's hard to read where the car in front of you is going to go. Gilbream, I think, wants a piece of Gary. He's going to go flying around the outside. Look at the closing speed. He's got about 30 k's advantage down the straight, and he does get that move done. And of course, he's going to be very interested in Spain in front of us. 2 penalties to his name now. That will cost him relative to Gilbream, but seemingly no one else at this stage. Maybe Cucumber could possibly take advantage. As you said, Nathan is doing a very good job, as is Sweetcrown. Those guys are still right there with the 2 leaders. The mediums holding up okay, and they are certainly in this fight, but Justas with 80% battery, well, he's certainly not opened things up at the front just yet.
Everyone's just in a bit of conservation mode right now. Montana's eked his way up to 62%. Nathan's up over 50% as well. Sweetcrown's on 70%, 75% for Spine. They're all just hanging on. And then you look behind them, and it's absolutely breathless. 8% for Gilbream, 22% for Gary. Cucumber's sitting pretty, and we know how much Liam has been struggling. Desperately clinging on, not really living up to his sponsor there with Duracell over the anti-roll hoop at the top of that car. Sorry. As we come down the straight, Nathan very close to Montana. Montana's had to burn a little bit now, and Montana, is he going to go for an overtake? He's having to back off the overtake, and he's let Nathan in. Critical error from Montana there. He didn't want to overtake Justas, and he had to use his DRS to defend from Nathan. That put him up for an overtake on Justas. He didn't want to overtake Justas. He didn't want to take the lead of the race. And then he just let Nathan in anyway. A horrible blunder from Montana there. I think that's classic overthinking. Penalty for Felipe. Penalties flooding in all down the field now. That was a major boo-boo from Montana and how he played that situation. He should have just gone for Justas. And if he didn't want to keep the lead, let Justas come through into turn 11. But backing off as he did when there was a clear overtake on, just ended up losing him P2 to Nathan as well. And now he slipped back a little bit, and look at Sweet Crown here is quite close to Montana now, although Sweet Crown not really fancying picking a fight. But this is a position. None of the top 4 have a penalty as of yet. And Sweet Crown might be just... I've seen that last lap and think, maybe I can get a podium here. But, I mean, what was your thoughts on that last lap from Montana, how he played that?
Well, I thought it was genius from Nathan. He did exactly what you need to do if you're the third car in the train, which is go on the offensive and try and disrupt that harmonious relationship the top 2 drivers have. Montana, I think, was planning on waiting for the final lap, and he didn't want to deviate from the game plan, and sometimes you have to in these situations. Now the situation is a lot trickier for him as Yobri moves past Gary further back down the order. Those two are swapping places, seemingly almost relaying, trying to match the pace of the leaders. Nathan now is holding back. He's not really under any pressure, and he's just thrown his name in the ring, basically, to try and win this race. He's in a great position to do so, even if he's at a battery disadvantage. The DRS and the slipstream is just so powerful. So Montana, if he wants to win this race, he's going to have to launch some sort of counter-attack at some point and maybe try and put Nathan under the same pressure that Nathan just did to him. Sweet Crown and Spine just watching on from behind. So intriguing dynamics. We're inside the final 4 laps of the Grand Prix now, and the fight for the win is starting to hot up. Justas, again, still hasn't opened things up. He's going to be wary of Nathan in behind him as the penalties continue to fly in. Thankfully, none of the top 4 have them at this stage. We'll see if it remains that way. So Nathan, again, he's right in the mix for this. The question is he going to do the same waiting game? And Montana, you would have to think, is going to have to pressurise Nathan very shortly.
I think for Nathan, you've got to. I think he's better off overtaking to defend from Montana than... As Montana's going to go for this, actually. He's dumping it. This is the lap. Montana's just trying to... This is the lap. Here we go towards turn 9. Turn will be 3 wide here. Montana's going to try to take 2 of them for the price of 1, but then he runs up against the back of Justas around the outside, switches the inside of 10, and he nabs the exit as well. Montana knew what he had to do, and he compensated for his earlier mistake. Connor retires in the pit lane. Fair play, NSX Montana. That was stupendous and absolutely fearless as well into turn 9. And now he has, in theory, another clean run at Justas. But Nathan has got more ERS than Montana now. And he could act, as you said, as a bit of a disruptor to Montana again if he feels like it.
He's right on the rear wing of the Aston Martin. His only hope of the race win, barring an incident between the top 2, is getting in and amongst it, so he's going to try and do that. It does mean that Justas now has significantly more to play with than Montana. If Montana does have a clear run onto the last lap, it may not matter. We will see. The gap half a second between them inside the last 3 laps of the Grand Prix. Then it is beginning to really hot up into these final stages. Montana sliding that rear end out there. It looks as though Montana, is he going to make the same mistake twice? I wonder if Nathan puts him under a bit of pressure. He's 3/10 behind the race leader, closing rapidly and lifting off that throttle pedal. You can see Nathan closing in right to the rear wing now. So that is the danger that NSX Montana is faced with, especially if these top 3 guys all get very close. He's opening and closing the DRS. He's waiting. I think he does want to leave this to the last lap to leave no chance of a Justas counter-attack, but Nathan's pace is so strong as Justas continues to essentially cruise at the front, not using his full pace. Is giving Nathan these opportunities. He gets very close to the rear wing of the 5-time champion. Heading into the final 2 laps of the race now. We're beginning to line up for the finale here at Australia. Justas leads, Montana P2, Nathan P3, Sweet Crown and Spain just looking on from behind. Cucumber, Yobrim and Gary trying to keep up that tempo and stay in contention, maybe taking advantage of Spain's penalties. We will see. Justas now under pressure. Montana is going to wait, and I think he will leave this to the very fast lap to make his the very last lap, to try and make his move.
I think so. The only reason Montana will go this lap is to avoid Nathan doing what Nathan has already done to him again. I don't think... If Justas is smart, I think he'll sense that Montana's... He's using a little bit there. Isn't going to go for it into turn 1 or turn 3. This run here between turn 6 and 9 is where the air really stalls on that Alpine, and he just runs out of legs at the end of the straight, a bit like a donkey that's wants to give up a little bit. You can tell the car just doesn't have the grunt for the end of that straight with the wings it's running, and I think that is where he needs to dump all of his ERS. He can't waste it into turns 1 and to turn 3. He's got to use it into turn 9. Because that's where we've seen all of the overtakes when they come with the slipstream there. There's is that dual bream past Cucumber for P6 there. As here we go then, on to the last lap of the race. Justas played all the games. He's breaking DRS and slipstream, as much as he can. Uses a little bit, but keeps sub in reserve. And here we go now through turn 1. Everyone keeping it nice and clean through there. Uses a little bit again. And he's just stretching the track as much as he can, stretching that slipstream towards turn 3. But it is all going to be about that run towards turn 9. And look at Nathan. He's as close to Montana, and we're closer to Montana than Montana is to the back of Justas.
2 sectors to go here in Australia. The gap is 5.5 tenths of a second, but believe me, that gap will come down very, very quickly on this straight then. The battery already deploying for both of them, but is the gap big enough for Justas? We will see. Inside 30% of ERS now. Montana is going to gain rapidly at the edge of the straight, up towards turn 9, but I'm not sure if he's near enough. He's running out, and he doesn't have enough to kick on at the end of that straight, so as Justas played this perfectly, he's got that little bit more to use. Now deploying out of turn 10. Here comes Montana. He's going to have one crack at this. Justas covers to the inside. Montana trying to dive daringly on the brakes to the outside. Switches back to the inside. Wheel spin for the pair of them. And Justas holds on. We've got 2 more corners to go now. Will Montana send one? He looks to the inside, but it's only a feint. The braking zone is too short, and Justas runs it in deep. He uses the last of his grip, and he's going to hold on. Justas fends off Montana. An epic battle, and he is going to win the season over in Australia. Justas from Montana, from Nathan, from Sweet Crown. What a fight to the end. The Montana tried, but Justas so quick in that first sector, and he had the gap. He had what he needed to do, and Montana just didn't quite have the battery to see it through. He gave it his all, but Justas endures.
Oh, I knew it was the right thing to let you hit the end of that race. Oh, what a last lap that was. They both get in the wheel spin. They're both too trigger happy on the throttle out of turn 11, and you could tell they were just kind of like just asking a little bit more from the car than he wanted to give. I wonder if Montana hadn't had the wheel spin there and Justas had, and they'd gone side by side to 12, I'd love to know who would have come out on top of that one. Driver of the day goes Ariel Felipe. Yes. I'm not sure I buy that one. But what a breathless race. I hope to all the gods that is a sign of a season to come, because if that's what we get from start to finish, with 4 5-car battles for the victory, it is going to be the best Division 1 season we've ever had in League of Europe. Justas takes the lead of the championship. Montana isn't going to have it all his own way if he wants to take his 6th title in League of Europe. And on the podium as well, QVR Nathan, could that be a sign of things to come for Nathan as well? Perhaps he's going to be a regular race-winning contender this season on a track that probably isn't the most paddy track that you can see all season, with China to come next week. A specialty of Nathan, where he took his first D1 win. Perhaps it's going to be Nathan on the top step next week, and he's very much in the title fight as well, after starting 6th as well. So the top 2 swapped places from where they started, but it's Justas, the Lithuanian, who wins out from Montana. Nathan takes P3, completes the podium. Then it's Sweet Crown, Jewel Bream, Spine, Cucumber, goes Falcon, Gary, Verstappen, who takes the fastest lap point as well. What he could have done, perhaps a podium, if he hadn't chosen the wrong strategy. Then Liam and Felipe complete the points of 0.4 Felipe on his debut. Then it's Mohammed, Rocco, Ben JS, and Connor, Izzat, and Marty, and Matt were all DNFers. And I did have something I was going to say then. Oh yes, I know what I was going to say. Look at those best lap times on the right-hand side of your screen. How remarkably similar. Everyone within a 19.2 and a 19.7, with the exception of Verstappen, who made that later pit stop. So barely anything between them, not just in qualifying, in the race as well. I have a Division 2 race to win and some food to scrounge before that. So we're going to forego podium interviews, as we'll probably end up doing all season, because I can't be bothered with them. So I'll hand over to you. Is there anything else you want to say to round out this opening stream of Season 10 of League of Europe?
Well, it's great to be back, it must be said, and well, for me, D1 commentaries are rare in any case, so I'm very glad to have done this. Very glad to have commentated over that fight for the win. It's just an intriguing race-long battle between Justas and Montana, two champions in this league. And well, we've still got a third one that's yet to show up this season. We'll be seeing him further down the line. So, I mean, if that, hopefully that's, as you said, a sign of things to come, because the racing on this game, I'm getting a bit sidetracked here. Racing on this game is so curious with just around Australia, the slipstream is just so powerful, and it really opens things up for more strategy than anything else. And on the last lap, as you saw, everything just erupts. So yeah, it's great to have these fights. It's great to see everyone so evenly matched, and I don't think for once we're going to get a runaway champion here in Division 1 when Montana is racing. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I feel very privileged to have been able to get back in here and commentate on that race.
And one thing I will say as well is that we did have a last lap overtake between Gary and Gilbream, where Gary went around the outside of Gilbream at the last corner, which was just outstanding. We just caught the end of that move. It was academic because Gary had his penalties, but all the same. Tremendous racing all the way through the field. We didn't see any drivers really coming to blows in that race. It was just pure, clean, fabulous racing. That's what we want more of all the way through League of Europe from Division 1 to Division 4. And speaking of Division 4, you can tune in to see QVR Verstappen and Ariel Felipe with their combined 5 points from this evening, to talk you through that one. And for Division 2, you have NSX Montana and Funky Chicken to talk you through that. They're 8:10 British summer time, so in 29 minutes, those guys will be live to take you through proceedings. But for me, it's a massive thank you for Daka for keeping me company for the last 80 minutes or so. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. We'll see you next week. I won't see you next week. Oxide Nova will see you next week at China. He may be joined by Daka. He probably won't be. Or whoever will be alongside Oxide Nova next week. But until then, thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you for another breathless Division 1 race. Ta-ra.